Welcome back to Higher Ground. That lovely music you are hearing is from a group called Shelter Music Boston. It is a set of professional musicians that deliver concerts as a social service, performing at homeless shelters across the region. Established in 2010, the very first outings were at the Kitty Dukakis Treatment Center and the Shattuck Center. Later, the series grew to other places like Rosie's Place. More recently, they named their concert series for women in recovery at the Demick Center. Now, the Eileen Beale Concerts for Women. They are also piloting concerts for homeless children. My guest, Julie Leven, picked up the violin when she was about 9 years old and hasn't stopped. She played in concert halls around the world, and she is the founder and artistic director of Shelter Music Boston. Welcome to Higher Ground.
Thank you, Carmen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, music in homeless shelters, duh, how did that happen?
Well, in 2009, I actually read an article in the New York Times about a violinist in New York City who was occasionally playing in a shelter where her husband was working in the soup kitchen, delivering meals to the people using that shelter. And I read that article and I thought immediately, we need that in Boston. It's going to be a social service organization, as you mentioned, which employs professional musicians to put them to work in environments that need music, that need the inspiration and the hope that music can create.
And what kind of reaction are you getting?
It's fantastic. I have to say that the very first place I approached, the Shattuck Emergency Shelter, I had a conversation with the staff member there about coming to play the concerts, and she said she would give this a try, and she later told me that she thought my idea was just way too far out there. What would the shelter guests do with Western classical music? And to her credit, she said within the first 5 minutes of the first concert, she saw what no words could describe or explain, and that was the guests in the shelter sitting quietly, smiling, interacting, and later talking about feeling their humanity restored.
Oh, wow.
In fact, one of the words that comes up quite often in the comments that we receive from our audience members is the word soul. For instance, one woman said, "The music was water for my soul when it was thirsty."
That is wonderful. That's amazing. Now, you mentioned they're all professional musicians who are paid for this mission.
Absolutely.
Where do you find the musicians?
All of our musicians are local Boston players. Actually, that's not true. We have one musician who's based in Pittsburgh. She used to be in Boston. And we're all working locally, nationally, internationally. Boston is a fantastic community for working classical musicians because we have so many options. And all of us are working in a way that's kind of a jigsaw puzzle of a career that puts together our work in our shelter concerts. For instance, this afternoon, will be playing at Symphony Hall on one of my other orchestras that I'm a member of. So we're all busy, active musicians who are committed to this kind of work, to creating change, social change with the music that has been our professional training and has filled our professional lives.
And when you say social change, what does that mean? What do you really mean?
Well, thank you for asking. The change we create is on many levels. In fact, first and foremost, in the shelters with the audiences that we deliver directly to. The places where we perform our concerts are very unconventional, as I mentioned, for a concert, a homeless shelter, and those places, the people who are using shelters in this terrible weather, the shelters are extremely full, those people's lives are full of stress and full of challenges that in each day mean getting a meal and a place that's out of the frigid weather. We come along and we create a community during our concert. It's a temporary community, but it's a community based in respect and dignity, respect for great art, respect for the individuals to whom we perform the concerts, and we come back month in and month out as a way of showing our commitment to that community and the needs of that community. So we're changing the energy, if you will, in the shelter. People go from feeling that they can't access can't access their own humanity to literally saying, I feel like a human being again. One comment, I lost my condo, but hearing the music, I know somehow things are going to come out okay. As I said earlier, many people talk about the music giving them back their heart and soul, which is a challenge to stay in touch with when one is facing such challenges.
How do you select which shelters to perform or to add to your circuit?
Well, we have maintained our relationship with the Shattuck Emergency Shelter, which is now run by Pine Street Inn. And at times, organizations reach out to us. We have a very good reputation for, as I said, coming back and delivering a high-quality social service that creates change on the ground immediately for the guests of the shelters. So some of the partnerships are built on organizations reaching out to us. Sometimes we reach out to an organization. We know that there is significant unmet need. There are many places in the community that need music. We also do partner with some organizations, as you mentioned, for women and men in recovery. So those sorts of organizations are also frequently in need of the services we can provide. My dream is that we have many more musicians working not only locally but nationally in this work, and in fact that we transition away from needing to serve homeless shelters, because wouldn't it be lovely if there was no need for homeless shelters. However, there will always be environments of need for music beyond a conventional concert hall.
Indeed. Well, thank you for sharing your inspirational work with the Higher Ground audience. And we're going to listen to a little more of the group in action. But first, I will leave you with the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who warns us that, and it's not Emerson, I'm sorry, it's Robert Louis Stevenson who reminds us, the person who forgets to be thankful has fallen asleep in life. Have a blessed day and see you next time on Higher Ground. Now back to the music.